Hello.
Hello.
It's been a while. But welcome back to episode 37 of Calls with Paul. We took a little bit of a break. Let's be honest. What happened is school got out, and I desperately needed to get out of our house and to get away. And so we headed to the Texas coast to Cinnamon Shore for a little bit of a break from the daily routine,
Changing
a
reality.
change in reality.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, Texas coast was not social distancing,
No.
not wearing masks, or anything like that. So it was definitely a very different experience. What would you say about it?
It was really, I'm so proud of Austin and how everybody's really wearing masks and doing all the right things. And I didn't realize how proud I was until I went down there, and like we went to go get takeout food, and I'd be in a restaurant and no one wearing masks at all, like just like normal. So it's a pretty big different ball game. Being on the beach with the wind and whatnot, I was pretty comfortable with not wearing a mask, but otherwise not so much. I'm gonna let the dog
I'm
out.
going to excuse myself, and I'll let
Okay,
the dog out.
Marquette's gonna let the dog out. Yeah.
Go, Billy.
Um,
So today, though, one of the things I always love is that you're always thinking of new ways and new stats and things like that about the real estate market. And you sort of were looking at the data after the May real estate stats came out from the Austin Board of
Yeah.
Realtors, and you discovered what you've affectionately called the pandemic premium.
yeah.
So tell us, you're seeing some trends.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So we initially saw like our buyers, their searches changed.
Well, before you get into
Yeah.
the searches changing, tell us
Yeah.
about like the 5-year look back and your alligator mouth and
Oh,
what you're
yeah,
seeing.
yeah, yeah. So, but before we did anything, I wanted to take a look and see kind of how the market was doing pre-COVID, and what was happening to inventory, because what we're really having right now is a total inventory shortage. So I went back 5 years, and it's a pretty neat chart. Do I get to show it?
Going out today. No, going out today via email to those of you in our database, and if you'd want to be added, we're happy to add you.
Yeah, so I looked back at the number of homes available at any given time, and then the sales. Sales kind of have stayed the same for the last 5 years, but what's really changed is that the number of available homes has gone down. And I think that's pre-COVID, due to more job creation here. It used to be people would leave town to go further their career, but now here in Austin, people don't have to do that so much. So we're not seeing as many people relocate out of Austin, but sales are staying the same.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like it was already on a decline, and it seemed like the coronavirus really accelerated that decline.
Yeah, it was a serious exasperation. If you'll remember back, and I don't know why you guys remember, but I do. If you remember back to when COVID began on Friday the 13th of March, and that first week, nothing.
I forgot it was Friday the 13th.
Yeah, and that kind of cool. I mean, not maybe not cool, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So week one, nothing happened. Week two was really interesting. Like sellers figured out, gosh, this is real. We're sheltering in place, and en masse, about 25 or so percent of the market just evaporated. We all pulled our homes off the market, and those guys haven't returned. So what that meant was, while demand was kind of staying the same, there were fewer homes.
So you talk about it as the alligator mouth, and that we're approaching this point where inventory and buyer demand may collide. And I was like, so what happens when that happens?
Yeah,
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, there's
But
no,
what
there's
it means would be what?
no more homes. No more homes to sell. We're sold out, baby.
Right, that there
That'd
would
be weird. I've never seen inventory this low.
ever in 25 plus years.
And by inventory, I mean homes available for people to buy.
And that's why you're seeing multiple offers and some very frustrated buyers, which we're gonna
Right.
we're gonna talk about.
Right.
So, what was the outcome of this declining inventory? The biggest thing that we noticed when we looked at the May 2020 stats from the Austin Board of Realtors,
Prices went up.
by about what?
10% according to the board. As I run it in different ways, I get slightly different numbers, but that's pretty accurate.
Well, prices have been going up.
Yeah.
So what's so big about 10%?
Well, it's in the middle of a pandemic, which is fascinating because
And it's a bigger leap than normal too, right?
it is probably a 2 or 3% larger than our normal spring lift, and from my perspective, we really didn't have our spring market. We're kind of having it now, because people are starting to feel comfortable with the new normal. You know, everybody's kind of adjusted into how things work.
And I always like to remind everybody that when we get these stats from the Austin Board of Realtors for May of 2020, those come out in mid-June. And what those stats really show is what happened pretty much the month prior, because
Right.
not every transaction, but I'd say the majority of real estate transactions take about 30 days to close. And so when you're looking at statistics about closings and things like that from May, that's really speaking to, interestingly enough, April.
Yeah.
And what the market was like in April. So I know you don't have a magic wand or a crystal ball, but what would you think June, when the June stats come out, that would be a reflection of the market in May. What are you expecting from that?
Prices are still going up. The feeling on the ground, and I suss it out in some of this stuff, but multiple offers are back to where they were pre-COVID, and what that means is that there's just a great deal of demand. And I think we're going to continue to see that. We're starting to see people from New York continue to come, and LA has some pretty deep interest in other high dense areas. People want to. My walk away from this whole thing, if you don't want to read it, is
Well, we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
Don't
Okay.
tell the end before
All
we
right.
get to the end.
all right.
Okay, so do you think we would have seen some appreciation anyway, even if COVID had not been there?
Yeah, absolutely.
But not at 10%.
Right. We've been running at anywhere from, depending on what sub market you're in, anywhere from 5% to 10%.
And there is, people need to remember there's a big difference between which neighborhood or submarket you're looking at and the price point that you're looking at. So you were mentioning earlier, and I keep cutting you off because you keep wanting to,
I love you. You can cut me off
to go
all
faster.
you want.
So buyer preferences are shifting.
Yeah.
So you and I have talked about several times that as we spent time in our home, we started to really it's shown a spotlight on what we loved about it,
Yeah.
what we didn't like about it. And that wasn't just for us. I mean, because home is all of a sudden where you're cooking 3 meals a day, where we're teaching the children, where we're working out. Like, it was everything to everyone. And so you've definitely seen a kind of a shift in buyer preferences. Is that true?
Absolutely.
And I think it was fun to me. You kind of called them the new realities of the Austin real estate market,
Yeah.
and you kind of boiled it down into 4 new realities. Tell us a little bit about what the first reality is.
I'm trying to remember
Hint, it's
what
condos.
that was. Oh, condos is the
Yeah.
first one. Yeah. So
People want to be in a house. They don't want to be in an apartment or condo. Go figure. You don't want to be next to people in the
Yeah.
middle of a pandemic.
pretty much people want to be able to walk outside and not worry about getting COVID. Is the short of it. We see condo sales. The actual numbers of condo sales, I think, we're down like 46, somewhere around 50%.
Yeah, they dropped 46% year over year.
But the price is holding steady. It takes a long time. If that market needs to correct, it'll take a while for that to occur. But certainly seeing fewer sales down there isn't very promising for those guys. But if we get a cure or something miraculous happens, that'll get back online.
Well, I think that's interesting that a lot of times in Austin, at least, it takes a while for price to catch up. Sellers have still not come to terms. Sales are down for condos, but sellers aren't quite ready to accept or come to terms with the fact that might not be, that they may need to adjust their price.
Yep.
People don't like to go backwards. They like to go up.
No, people. It's real money, and it's important, and everybody wants. Buyers want the best deal they can get, and sellers want to make the most money they can.
So you're kind of anticipating there might be some softening in the condo market, which I read as an opportunity.
Yeah.
For people who feel like they've been priced out of buying a home in Austin, or they want to get into as a first-time homeowner into buying a home and they felt like there hasn't been a good time, it may be that this softening in condos, it doesn't have to be your dream home, it doesn't have to be the perfect home, but maybe that presents an opportunity for people to enter the market that otherwise might not have had that.
Yeah, it may be, provided they're okay living in a condo.
Well, the thing that is also interesting about that is that while condo sales were down 46%, Central Austin home sales, the prices for Central Austin home was up 20%.
Yeah, inside the loop. So all this started when I like to compare what's going on in Central Austin to what's going on outside, and The numbers are a little bit old. It was before we went to the beach, but what I found year to date, from January to a few weeks ago, is that Central Austin was up a full 20%, which surprised me. And that's on average sales price. So you have some that are dragging you way up.
And home sales even outside of Central Austin. So thinking about your suburbs like Round Rock and Leander and Pflugerville, those home sales are up 11%.
Yeah, they were up 11%. Both of which were really high numbers, and I think it really points to the lack of available housing.
Well, and also interesting about that is keep in mind, single family home prices and sales are going up. Condo sales are going down. So that you read between the two lines there, and it's indicative of what people's preferences are. People are preferring right now to not share a wall and to have, their own standalone home. They don't want to be on top of each other, which brings us to new reality number 2, which is
Well, hold on. Before we get there, just a little sideline.
Yeah.
I don't think I wrote it down anywhere, but I also looked at the AB market. So the duplexes that share a wall, they're hanging in there. I'm not seeing any really negative side effect from buying the condos that are attached to one other unit. The duplexes where you buy one side.
Cool. So that brings us to drum roll. New reality number 2, and that is that people want more space.
Yep.
Not just do they want to be in a single family home, they want more space. People have been living on top of each other since March. It's no surprise really to me. What I did find interesting is for a while there was kind of a trend to downsizing and having more compact spaces that were maybe a little bit more kind of flexible. But now it seems like bigger homes are back in vogue.
Yeah, bigger homes are back because we need to do more things in our house. There's also this fascinating thing, and I couldn't suss it out in any data that I have, but people are wanting to compound together. Like, so families are, we're hearing it a lot in the words of our buyers, where buyers are wanting to maybe bring in family members, or at least have that option for people.
To tribe up or bubble up.
Yeah.
If they have a home, I think the stat that you shared was that if the home is over 3,000 square feet, the average sales price is up 27%.
That's right.
So home sales prices in general in the city of Austin are up 10%.
Yeah.
But you're seeing an even greater increase for homes that are 3,000 square foot or larger.
Yeah, people are wanting bigger houses, and those numbers skew to the lower end. Just FYI.
And I think it's also interesting, you mentioned the compound, right? Like we're talking about building on our property in the country and creating a primary home with some cabins. And you've had several clients that are closing actually this week and next week that are doing the same kind of thing. And if you don't have the ability to go by acreage, which we'll talk about in a minute, some people are looking for guest houses.
Yep.
They want that ability to bring mom and dad in or whoever. Tell us about the stats on guest houses. Those were also up.
Yeah, the guest houses, I don't remember what the numbers were, but
23%.
But they're right there in alignment with the 3,000 square foot homes. I mean, 20 something. I mean,
it was 23.
Yeah.
And just as an aside, if you were looking for a home within the Central Austin Loop that has a guest house, we happen to have 2. That are on the market, both in 78704. One is 914 Jewel Street, which is a really cool original bungalow face that was remodeled in 2007 and added onto. It's got a really nice flow to the floor plan, and it has a guest house.
Yeah. And
then we have 803 Garner in Zilker, which has a super cool, I think of it as classical architecture, but not dated. It's modern and it's beautifully done on the interior. It also has a guest house, which has so much charm with this little arched doorway going into it and stuff. So check those out on Homesville.com if you're really serious about looking at homes with guest houses. And then acreage. We mentioned the acreage. We're seeing an increase in people wanting not just more space within their home, but space outside of their home.
Yeah, land, just space and whatnot. The 1 to 5 acre, which we have good access to in Austin and in the MSA, that was up a huge bunch.
31%.
Thank you. That way I don't put my glasses
That's all right.
on.
I'll be your statistician. So homes with acreage have definitely increased, and they're up, those sales that we can access through the MLS. Now, a lot of times
Right.
acreage lots don't necessarily go through the Austin MLS. They might be on the outskirts of the Austin area, so they may not show up. So keep in mind that that data might be a little skewed. But overall, home sites with 1 to 5 acres were up 31%.
Yep.
And you did some fun looking. You just closed on it. How many acres was that property out in Atlanta?
Oh, 46.
So, and Paul got to do something a little bit out of his normal wheelhouse.
I got to sell a ranch. It was
Yeah.
cool.
But if you're looking for larger amounts of acreage, and Paul has a question we'll get to in just a second, Paul. But if you're looking for something with a larger number of acres, you might check out landsoftexas.com. That is going to be properties across the state, so you can look at things by acreage, or you can look at distance from Austin. And it's sure, as you said, sure to bring your blood pressure down just to look at these beautiful,
really does.
beautiful pieces of property.
And just going drive, yesterday I spent a lot of time on the road driving through the hill country to Aaron's place and then to Successor.
To go to closing, yeah.
It was really pretty cool.
Yeah. So I also want to mention that we've been spending a little bit of time outside of Austin as well, and we will be having a property that fits those needs come up with in July sometime. And
Yeah.
I can't say more than that.
We can't.
Other than that, it's super cool.
We can't advertise it other than 1-to-1, but we have a
Yeah.
really, really, really cool property that's 5 acres.
Hot views and cool design.
Yeah, nice tagline.
Can you tell I've been working on my marketing?
Marketing chick. But, we expect it to be really in high demand, and
Yeah.
it's cool.
So now to Paul's question. Paul wants to know if buying something with a guest house requires a down payment that is higher than 20%. What's the answer to that?
No, if you're buying it as a primary residence, it falls into the same category as everything else. If you're buying primary, you can put as little as 5% down.
Paul, we'd love to have you in
Yeah.
Austin. Come see us.
Yeah, and by the way, if you buy a duplex or something like, or even a fourplex, and you buy it as owner occupied, you can also put very little down.
Cool.
Hope that helps.
All right, so new reality number 3, right? We're seeing prices go up. We're seeing sales go up in pretty much across the board, except for homes over $1 million.
That's right.
Home sales over $1 million are down.
Yeah. Let's be clear. The prices aren't down. It's the number.
Prices are holding steady.
Yeah. The prices are holding steady, but we're down about 50% in the number of transactions we see in that category.
Which is interesting because pretty much across the board, with the exception of condos, prices are going up, and the number of sales are going up.
Yep.
But with condos and luxury homes over $1 million, those are down 50%.
Yeah, I think you have
That's a lot.
I think you have a couple of things working in there. One, getting a jumbo loan is incredibly difficult right now.
Ugh, yeah, we just refinanced and they wanted like our life. I don't know. It was crazy.
Yeah, and then as you go higher in price point, people become a little more cautious, because they probably have the wherewithal to do it, unless they're moving to town for grandkids.
The grandkid premium.
In which case they'll move heaven and earth
Yeah.
to get where they need to be.
Cool. Okay, well, so that's new reality number 3, and our last new reality, number 4,
What was it?
is that the competitive nature of Austin's real estate market is alive and kicking. So while people might think, oh, it's a pandemic, I'm going to be able to buy more, I'm going to have more negotiating power, they're going to be grateful to get my offer in the middle of a pandemic, that is not what you are seeing.
Not at all. It's highly competitive. We're writing offers and good ones too, and we don't always get them. And we go over list, and we do all the right things, and it's that market again, where you have.
Well, it's back to pre-COVID numbers. So
Yeah.
things that are selling within 4 days, which is typically going to be that first weekend on the market, that's back to the pre-COVID numbers. And I thought what you had written was interesting, that if we don't have more sellers enter the market and we don't have more homes going up for sale, that number of multiple offers is just going to increase.
It'll keep going up, and I think that's probably where we're headed. And what I find myself saying again, I repeat this every now and then when we get into these kind of markets, but you have to be the craziest person in the room to buy the house or to win that deal.
I don't know about craziest. I think I might say
Yeah.
the most committed. Most
Right.
committed.
Well, yeah.
But I want to also add a word of caution because sometimes our sellers hear that and they go multiple offers, and
Yeah.
yay. Not everything is going multiple.
Right.
It really boils down to the same three things that you tell our sellers all the time. It's all about price, condition, location. And generally speaking, you found that the highest demand for homes were things that were under 850.
Under 850 seems to be kind of the
We
the-
can just ignore the dog.
we can.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, she's distracting me.
Okay, just ignore.
But yeah, under 850, there's strong demand, and the lower you go, the more demand there is.
The less expensive the home, the more competition there is for it.
Right.
And are people wanting to do fix up? I mean,
No, especially now, like we have some folks from New York who are coming in. They don't want to fix her up, or they want to move right in. They're trying to escape like New York and move into a nice place and be done. They're up to 550 if anybody has any off-market stuff that they want to share with me.
oh, and I thought, why don't you share the stats on the rental rates and what a New Yorker can find for a short-term rental here while they're looking for a permanent home?
Oh yeah,
I thought that was fascinating.
That was fascinating. So,
Paul, this is for you.
Danny, if you're watching, thank you for the information. But she said that she thought she'd just come on down to Austin because at the Domain.
And these are people that were buyers.
Yeah, they're coming to town to buy, but they're gonna get a short-term rental in the Domain for a third of the price of what they pay for 1 month's rent in New York. So
A short-term rental in the Domain where you can walk to restaurants and go shopping
it's pretty cool.
safely, socially distant,
Yeah.
for a third of what the
Third.
rent is
Yeah.
in New York.
So she looked that up and she's like, I'm on my way. She's like immediately moved to Austin. Doesn't even have to buy anything. She's just gonna start saving right away.
Are they getting out of their lease then in New York and moving?
Yeah, I didn't
That's
ask about that part, but
Cool.
because it's not on my side of the ball, but I assume so. Yeah.
That's interesting. All right, so where does that leave? Now's the advice portion. So where does that leave people who are wanting to buy?
Yeah, so a lot of buyers are struggling with the idea of prices continuing to go up, which is normal in any market, and probably more of a struggle now with unemployment numbers so high. It's confusing how prices continue to go up. But I think, especially in Austin, we're not going to see less demand. We're going to see more of it as time goes by. People are going to come from like Danny from New York, and other people from other locations. We're not slowing down. The demand curve hasn't changed. Nothing's really changed here except for Austin yet again got more desirable for people. So if you're buying, get ahead of that curve. It's low interest rates. It's a good time to buy. I don't see things slowing down.
If you see something, you should jump on it.
Yeah.
Just keep in mind that if it's under $1 million, sellers are not going to be as negotiable as you might think they would be.
Yeah.
Cool. What about sellers? What's your advice to sellers?
Hang in there, put a good price on it. Make sure you're well prepared, and that you do all the right marketing things, with the Matterport tour or the iGuide or whatever. Make sure you have plenty of information online. People on some of our pages where our listings are spending, this is a fascinating thing for us to find, that they're spending 5 minutes on one of the blog posts that you did.
Well, I would say for sellers, a lot of people, we're allowed to do in-person open houses in Austin, and we have done some cautiously and safely. We've done virtual open houses, and we are still seeing people come out and look at homes.
Yeah.
There, obviously there's that demand, but I also think that a lot of people are doing a deeper dive and a more thorough job of vetting and eliminating homes online before they meet up with their agent and have them show them a property, or before they make the effort to go to an open house. There was a time in my life that I just would go pop around at open houses on the weekend for fun because I liked the houses and the real estate, and I liked seeing it. Those days are pretty much over. So make sure if you're selling that you're working with someone that has a very strong marketing plan and that they've pivoted to address the needs of this new virtual sort of real estate market. So that means that not only are they maximizing your 40 plus photos, that they're doing video, not just animated photographs, but true video, that they're paying for things like having a 3D Matterport tour where people can maneuver through the house, that they're paying to get a floor plan and accurate measurements of the rooms, so that a lot of times you were over there with the tape measure measuring stuff for people, but now we are paying for floor plans with all the properties. We're doing digital flyers so that people don't have to pick stuff up at the house. They can just scan a QR code and access that. So there's definitely a lot that can be done to generate interest, and I'm excited that people are spending more time on our website, because that's just we've put a lot of stuff there, right? Like there's a lot of information and data about the home that they can explore before they decide to jump in.
Well, I think it's also real important that you have a safety plan, like if you're living there.
Yeah.
And we could talk about that one-on-one if anybody has interest.
Yeah, there's a way to try to do it in a way that protects our sellers.
There's some options, but I'm not going to go into that.
So what about if you're an investor? What's the advice for investors?
Yeah, so I pay a lot of attention to the multifamily market, and what we saw when COVID happened with that was it slowed. There's a lot of caution out there about making an investment. I think there's concerns about tenants paying rent and all that kind of stuff, but that seems to be going away. It's lagging a little bit behind the residential Maslow's hierarchy, find your own shelter stuff.
Before you find an investment.
Before you do that, so it makes sense. But it's on the way up. We had one yesterday that we were looking at really closely for a good client of ours in Seattle, and by the time I got out there, it was marked pending, and yeah.
Wow, that was fast, because it just went on yesterday.
That's what
was
she
pending
said.
by the end of the day.
So like orientating yourself to this new market. But if you see a multifamily property that you like, that market's on its way back. It's not full blown yet like where it was, but I see that coming in the next couple of weeks.
So you expect that there will be a larger push back into the investment properties. So while that lag is happening, this is a good time to snap something up.
Yeah, I mean you have low inventory on the residential side.
Sure.
And that's going to carry over. I mean, these are still housing units. And they're very valuable, and they're getting more valuable, especially as we have low inventory.
So what's your summary, your takeaway, the conclusions that you wanted to share in the very beginning?
Now's a good time to transact in real estate.
And that's not just us saying that. Y'all should know by now that we don't just say that stuff to try to generate deals.
And there's probably a lot of people here that have another agent, believe it or not.
Oh, never.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like, we just want to educate you guys, but like. It's a good time to do business. It's not a lot of fun because you got to wear a mask and all that stuff, but or it's not as fun. I'm still having a good time out there, but it's hot, when you breathe inside of that mask, and
nothing like wearing a mask and lipstick and sweat dripping down your arms because you're wearing plastic gloves.
Yeah, that's way worse than what I have.
Super fun, but we do it. So I guess the bottom line is, I would say, is that some people are still not ready to get in the market. Some people are. Regardless of where you're at in your journey, we're here when you're ready. No pressure, no pushing. And I think it's kind of a good time to reach out and dream, if you will, about what's possible. We're doing some dreaming. We're getting surveys and talking to architects and maybe talking to builders and exploring options. I'll also say dreaming about what's possible doesn't necessarily have to be limited to Austin. It can be acreage outside of Austin. It can be a beach house down in Port Aransas, which we are happy to share our experience with our investment there if anybody's curious about that. It's a good time to kind of run numbers, start weighing your options, and think about what might happen.
Yeah.
Either way, we're glad to connect, right?
Everybody's changing. Everybody's re-looking at things. It's kind of a beautiful time.
Cool.
In that way, and happy to help. And if we can't help you, we can send you who does.
For sure.
The good stuff.
For sure. Thank you guys for joining us for episode 37 of Calls with Paul, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
We'll see. All right. Y'all take care, and we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.